Wells Fargo might have actually done it again. Barely 3 months after launching their Wells Fargo Autograph Journey credit card that sent shockwaves through the industry, Wells Fargo has come out again with a brand new credit card, this time calling it the Wells Fargo Attune card. And Wells Fargo has been trying to give each one of these cards a different brand and a different category for that card to really own. And so the brand and the category that they're building with this brand new Wells Fargo Attune card is, as they like to call it, making a positive impact. But I think it has much more to do with the card's actual name, which is it gives you benefits on things that keep you in tune with yourself, that keep you attuned to your personal well-being, to your mental well-being, and to society's well-being. And yet again, like the Autograph Journey card, the Attune card is getting a good deal of hype, and it's our job in this video to figure out if this card is actually worth the hype and if you should consider adding it to your wallet. That being said, if you are wondering which credit cards are right for you specifically in your specific situation, then for my day job, I'm building an app called PointWise, where we connect to your existing credit and debit card accounts. We ask you a few questions about your preferences, and then we let you know which credit cards to get and when based on your specific spending profile. So we basically act as your trusted credit card advisor over time. If that sounds interesting to you, I'll leave the link for PointWise down in the description below. If we haven't launched by the time this video is live, we'll be launching any day now, so keep an eye out for that. Now back to our review of the Wells Fargo Attune card. We'll handle this review just like we do all of our other card reviews on this channel, which means we're going to start by looking at the welcome offer for the card. Then we're going to look at the card's annual fee, followed by any credits this card might have that might offset that annual fee. And that will take us to the card's multipliers, which is how much you get back on any given transaction. And ultimately, we're going to finish with issuer rules. And if you don't know what that is, that's totally fine. We'll get there in a few minutes. To start with the welcome offer, this is a relatively simple welcome offer. You get $100 in cash rewards back after spending $500 or more within the first 3 months of opening the card, which is very low. It's rare that you're going to find a credit card welcome offer lower than $100, but it's also rare to find a minimum spend requirement of only $500 to hit that offer. Usually, if you're looking at an offer for $500 or $1,000, whatever the high-end offers are, you're looking at spending several thousands of dollars within the first few months of opening the card. And here, you're only looking at spending $500, which actually does make it a slightly better welcome offer because you're getting essentially 20% cash back on those first $500. But that's not all there is, and here's the first indication that this card is trying to do a little bit of something different, that this card is actually trying to make a positive impact in the world, which is that once you qualify for that $100 welcome offer after spending $500 on the card in the first 3 months of owning the card, then Wells Fargo has promised to donate $50 to Capital Link, which is a nonprofit. So essentially, the welcome offer is, I guess you could call it $150 after you spend $500 within the first 3 months of owning the card. That being said, you only get $100 of that, the other $50 goes to charity. So I don't know how much that personally interests you. Of course, you'd rather them just pay you the $150 and then you could give the $50 to a charity of your choice, but perhaps it's better than nothing if they weren't going to give you the money anyway. Moving on to the annual fee, this card has no annual fee, which means that if you get this card, you'll never have to worry about whether or not this card is worth keeping in the long term beyond when it renews every year, because there's no annual fee you have to pay, so it will only help your credit score by aging your average age of account and bringing that number up over time. Obviously, in the short term, that might go down, but cards generally, when you keep a card for a really long time, your credit score goes up because of it. And so you want to have some no annual fee cards in your portfolio or in your wallet because over time, those typically increase your credit score. And just for peace of mind, not having to think about having another annual fee to pay or whether or not this card is worth it for me to keep every year, right? That peace of mind is really, really valuable. PointWise will help you manage all of that if you are wondering whether or not those annual fees are worth it in your specific situation, right? We are that trusted credit card advisor over time. But again, if you don't want to use something like PointWise to help keep track of that, then getting no annual fee cards is a really easy way to stay on top of your annual fees. Now, because there's no annual fee for this card, there are also no credits for this card, which is pretty understandable because how would they afford to be able to give people credit if there's no annual fee coming in? But in a way, that's a good thing because people tend to overvalue credits pretty frequently. We talked about this a lot in our Amex Gold video from last week, which you can check out here, but people tend to overvalue these credits. And this is one of the ways that credit card companies make money on the annual fees is that not everyone takes advantage of the credits that actually offset them to the full extent. They're not actually worth the full amount that people are ascribing to them. So the fact that this card doesn't have any credits means, by definition, you can't overvalue the credits, right? You know what you're getting. You're not paying an annual fee, you're not getting any credits, but it's very simple. And what that means is that this card's long-term value really comes down to the multipliers. And this card's multipliers are really where they're trying to make a name for themselves. The Wells Fargo Attune card will give you 4% cash rewards on several different categories. One of them is what they're calling self-care. The other is what they're calling select sports, recreation, and entertainment. And lastful, they're calling impactful purchases. Now let's check out each one of those individually. For self-care, they're counting spa and gym purchases as well as other fitness and wellness purchases towards that 4% cash rewards. When it comes to what else counts as fitness and wellness purchases, they have a laundry list of examples from beauty and barber shops, health and beauty spas and massage parlors, fitness studios and gym memberships, and several just qualifying merchant categories, which is any merchant that bills with the certain merchant code that matches beauty and barber shops, gym memberships and fitness studios, health and beauty spas, and massage parlors. So all of those will also count. So that's the self-care portion of the 4% back. Regarding select sports, recreation, and entertainment, at first glance, it actually looks pretty vague, but once you dig into the details, and I'll put those up on the screen, there are actually a lot of things which are included in this category, and I was pleasantly surprised. So again, you're going to be getting 4% back on all of these, and just to name a few, you're going to be getting your 4% back on all sorts of amusement parks, on billiard and pool establishments, on bowling alleys, on golf courses, other tourist attractions, trailer parks and campgrounds. So you have all sorts of these other recreational and leisure activities, but you also are getting your 4% back on different types of merchants that sell sports equipment. So if you get an Eddie Bauer jacket, that probably counts towards this 4% back. On several cruise lines, on Peloton, on all sorts of these different outdoorsy companies, as well as sports and live entertainment. So for example, box office tickets at major sporting events. The examples they give are different NASCAR races, Dodger Stadium. You're getting 4% back on your purchases to these places. They also list StubHub, Ticketmaster, Vivid Seats. So I would imagine this probably doesn't only apply to sports games, but the reason I'm listing all of these categories out is because their initial title of self-care or select sports, recreation, and entertainment, right? These are pretty vague categories, and they could just try to get that headline advertisement of, ooh, look, we get you 4% back on this category, and then not really put any substance into it. But if you look at the substance of these cashback categories, they're actually very, very good. And they're actually very inclusive for each of these categories. Not to mention, entertainment also includes almost all streaming. So you're gonna get your 4% back on every different Apple subscription you can find: Disney, ESPN Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Pandora Plus, Pandora Premium, Peacock Prime Video, Spotify Premium, YouTube TV, all of them. So this is starting to look like a really, really valuable card in any significant cashback setup. Not to mention, if you still get DVDs or videotapes, you get 4% back on those too. And then you also get 4% back on what they're calling impactful purchases, which includes everything from antique shops to public transit and not gas, but electric vehicle charging stations. So when you put all of this together, you're getting 4% cash back on a very high percentage of your transportation costs, especially if you live in a city or drive an EV. You're getting 4% back on most of your live entertainment and most of your streaming, and also on some of your clothing and your gym membership, and that ends up being a really good amount of your spending. So real quick, let's go to the issuer rules, and these are just the issuer is the bank, and issuer rules are any rules that the issuing bank for the card might have that might determine whether or not you're eligible to get the card or to get the sign-up bonus. And when it comes to Wells Fargo, frequently, they won't approve you for a new card if you've opened a new Wells Fargo credit card within the last 6 months. Now remember, the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card launched just around 3 months ago, and so I would be surprised if they didn't approve people for the Wells Fargo Attune card who got the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card just because they both launched so close together. But it is possible, and there's a chance that you might want to space these out 6 months from each other to increase your odds of approval without, God forbid, getting rejected, but still getting that hard inquiry on your credit report. But it might be a smart idea to space those applications apart about 6 months from each other so that you don't accidentally get rejected for this card that theoretically you could be approved for and have that hard inquiry on your credit score without actually getting the card to benefit from it. But to wrap things up here, I am actually impressed by how quickly Wells Fargo has found a niche in the market and has been able to really make a name for themselves. If you look at the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card, the Wells Fargo Autograph card, right? These cards have incredible categories of rewards where you can start building a wallet around Wells Fargo cards, and it's really starting to make sense, and it's really starting to be competitive with so many 3x, 4x, and 5x categories. And the Wells Fargo Attune card basically covers all of the categories you'd expect a card to cover that the major Wells Fargo cards haven't already covered. And so pairing the Wells Fargo Attune card with a Wells Fargo Autograph Journey or a Wells Fargo Autograph card, or even a combination of the two, you can start to see where Wells Fargo is trying to go and the early makings of a really powerful, dare I say, trifecta. That being said, Wells Fargo obviously has their reputational woes that they're still trying to get past, and it seems like they always are. Some people aren't the biggest fans of Wells Fargo. You do see Wells Fargo making a lot of progress in a really short amount of time. And so for that, I applaud Wells Fargo. I think this card does have its place in some people's wallets. And if you want to know if that wallet is your wallet, then check out PointWise, where we will literally examine your spending and compare it to the benefits and multipliers of every card that's out there, and we'll be able to tell you with certainty which credit cards are the best for you based on your specific spending profile.